Hello folks, I'm back. I'm Headley, another fat bearded man talking about records, and specifically I'm going to be talking about some country rock records. It's about time I got back to doing some of these. I know there's people who are out there that like this, and so yeah, I aim to please. I rarely manage it, but I do aim. Okay, so I'm going to show I think 5, and I'm going to put a special extra bonus at the end. So first off, we've got Back Pocket with Buzzard Bait. This is from 1976. This is the two guys, the two Pats. That's Pat Robinson and Pat Marashek, sorry. They started in Arcadia, California, which is, I believe it's a suburb of Los Angeles. Started out as a garage rock band called Fennick, and if any of you have got the Nuggets compilation, you'll know that there's a track on it by Fennick. Anyway, obviously the garage rock scene kind of didn't last, and like a lot of the garage rock bands, they sort of ended up turning into a country rock band. They released their first album in 1970. I haven't heard that. I can't really vouch for how good it is, or how country it is, or how garage it is. It might be a bit more garagey, but I don't know. I haven't heard it, so I can't tell you. 1971, so that was 70. 1971, they released a single called, or as I said, EP, called Ecology, which was actually a public service record that was given out to radio stations, and it was all about the dangers of pollution, smoking, and causing cancer and things like that. You know, the sort of things that certain people in power don't want you to talk about these days. Anyway, that was 1971. So they came back in 1976, and it's a kind of a diverse country rock record. It's got a bit of everything. It's got some boogie stuff on it. It's got some soft kind of rock. Obviously 76, heavily influenced by the Eagles by then on some of it. But it's even got on here on a couple of tracks something called a symphonizer synthesizer. A symphonizer, which is a cheap way to add string section. It's just synthesizer. So yeah, probably not my favourite tracks on here, but the ones that I do like are the ones that are the far more countrified, and it's helped by having Swamp Water, or members of Swamp Water, and the Flying Burrito Brothers and Burrito Brothers on here. So you've got John Beeland, Thad Maxwell, and Gib Gilboa on fiddle playing on this, and some of those tracks are really great. So they did tour around California on the back of this, but they kind of fell apart afterwards. I think they didn't get another album, and things fell apart. Pat Robinson, that's him there. He actually went on afterwards to join up in a kind of slightly unofficial Byrds revival with Gene Clark and John York. They were known as Cry, the C from Clark, the R from Robinson, and the Y from York. I don't think I ever heard any of that stuff. I'm not sure they're recording anything. I think they played live. I'd be interested to hear some of that stuff. Anyway, so there you go. I'm going to leave you with not leaving you. I'll be back for some more records after this, but I'm gonna give you a track from this called Low Bridge, because it gets a bit of a Gib Gilboa fiddle on it.
I know it wins and loses. I had my share of bruises, and I know it caused them every time. I've learned from taking chances and falling down at dances that I can catch up quick if I fall behind. And I know when my rainbow is right in front of me. They say love is like a low bridge that I'm gonna truck on through, only because I'm gonna make love to you. They say love is like a low bridge that I'm gonna truck on through. I'm gonna make.
Okay, so next up we've got Hartsfield. This is The Wonder of It All from 1974. That's the band there. They're also featured on the back. This was a band from Chicago, Illinois. They started, their first album was released in 1973. This is their second, They would go on to release 2 more, so 4 albums until they disbanded in 1974. They are a kind of very slick outfit, very much in keeping with the Eagles or the Pure Prairie League. But they never had the success, despite supporting some of the biggest names in rock history. They never really broke through, which is probably why they called it quits in 1977. It's, as I said, a very kind of slick sounding thing, but like a lot of these records, you have some that are kind of almost southern rock. You've got other ones that you have the ballads. The title track on here, "The Wonder of It All," is kind of a ballad, a country ballad. But there are some more traditional country tunes on here as well. They're mainly written by the founders of the band, J.C. Hartsfield and Perry Jordan. There they are. If you wanted to do a lineup of country rock musicians, that's very much what it would look like, wouldn't it? It's your very much Common Garden country rock group. There you go. So yeah, they also became known as a bit of a jam band, so extended long versions of songs and southern rock guitar licks and all that kind of stuff. It's good. I like. I mean, I much prefer it to the Eagles, but it is a slick kind of thing. Perry Jordan reformed the band, I think, sometime around the late 90s, maybe. I think he died in 2011, and the band is still going, I understand. And I think Fred Dobbs, the guy there with the beard, he's the only original member in the band now. But anyway, that's Hartsfield.
Cornbread and buttermilk, sweet bread and molasses, Lafayette County, I'm coming back. I'm a long way from Lafayette County. I can't see no use in staying here. Not with Mr. Luther Fiddle and Uncle Elvin Pick. Lord, don't the music sound pretty? Lafayette County, Mississippi.
Okay, this is Psome. Getting it all in there, a little bit shiny there. Psome, this is, I think, the only album by the band. This is from 1971. It also looks like a possum has probably had a bit of a go at the edge of there. Or a cat, maybe. Yeah, anyway, so this is a really interesting record. It's a bit more tongue-in-cheek, a bit more light-hearted. It kind of takes its a kind of a different route into country rock. It has far more in common with Dan Hicks, Commander Cody, even something like The Loving Spoonful. So they were from Riverside, California, which I understand is near San Bernardino. Basically a bunch of hippies playing a kind of a mixture of old school country, bit of jazz in there, a bit of blues. They were really interested in psychedelia, but, and it says on the back of here, that they thought that everything psychedelic had been said by Jimi Hendrix, so they wanted to do something a bit more homey, a bit more something you could sit down and listen to, but they were still interested in the kind of the idea of psychedelia. And you know, you can kind of hear that on the album. That it's kind of a sort of a notable addition of musicians on this, because you got Ron Tutt playing, who was Elvis Presley's drummer. He's playing some drums on here. You've also got Ry Cooder on here, and Red Rhodes playing pedal steel, who of course played a lot with Michael Naismith. So yeah, a really interesting record, mostly written by their main singer, Jim Baker. Anything else I need to say? Not really. It's just an interesting take on country rock. Psome from 1971.
Oh, what I would give just to be with all my friends, just to sit and sing a song or two and be myself again. I know I don't quite know where my feet are taking me. I know I'm quite a ways away from where I really want to be. Aye.
Okay, we've got a band that people may well have heard of, and that's Clover. This is their first album from 1970. People might be aware of the name of the band Clover, mainly because they played on Elvis Costello's first album, and also that they ended up kind of becoming Huey Lewis and the News. But they started out as a California band. They were based originally in San Francisco, and they did a really great kind of rocking, bluesy version of country rock, not too far from something like Creedence Clearwater Revival, maybe. Well, the more sort of country side of their kind of repertoire. They did 2 albums as their kind of original formation. This being their first in 1970. They had a second one called 49er. Or 49ers in 71. They didn't really kind of go anywhere with those records or that sound, so they ended up going through to the UK, which is where they ended up hooking up with Mutt Lange, who produced their albums. They released 2, I think, albums that were recorded in the UK. But this is a great rocking, kind of rough, dusty country rock. There's a few kind of slightly psychedelic 60s kind of sounding things, but there's some kind of more robust rocking elements as well. But this is a copy on America. What was it? America Records, which is this is a French pressing, and it sounds horrible. It's about the worst record in my sounding recording collection. It's very muffled, very quiet. But don't worry, I'll do you a clip from a kind of a compilation record of their first 2 albums, which sounds much better. One day I need to replace this first album. But yeah, great looking band. This guy seems to always be wearing his dungarees. I don't know what his name is. I'm not sure who he is. But yeah, interesting couple of albums they did before they kind of went in a soul kind of country direction with their UK stuff. But yeah, that's Clover. I really like their albums.
Oh, I don't give a damn about no Sherman antitrust act or other crazy government rules. I ain't no high-ranking senator gonna try to stop me 'cause I got a monopoly on you. And I couldn't care less about an act of Congress. I want to own all of your heart. And you can tell those other guys that they ain't getting nothing 'cause there's nothing gonna tear us apart. Oh, but jealousy sometimes overtakes me and makes me act like a fool. But we can form a monopoly of love together and to one another be true. Take it to key. All right, Ed.
Okay, so the last record I'm going to show you is actually a box set. And this is the Wright Brothers Overland Stage Company. And there you go. It's a box set of 3 albums they released. This was released in 1977. And the albums were released, I think, the 3 previous years. They were an Indiana-based kind of show band that did all kinds of styles of country music, depending on whatever audience. They would do anything from bluegrass to cover versions of Aerosmith, apparently, depending on whatever the audience wanted. And this is self-produced, so it's basically a private press. And like I said, it's a compilation album covering the first album they released, which was called Memorial Box, which was a 2-album set, so it's here as 2 separate discs. And this one, it's themed, so each side of the record is something different. So the first side is live encores. So these are recorded live, and you get things like a cover version of Harry Nilsson's Rainmaker on that, and there's also a Neil Diamond cover on there, and you've got a version of the American Trilogy, which obviously put together by Mickey Newbury, which, to be fair, I could do with hearing less of. Then you've got the second side, which is gospel songs. So yeah, and then the second disc has bluegrass songs and country songs, and then the final side is ballads. So yeah, I mean, all of it with a bit of a country rock tinge, but some of it's straight ahead bluegrass, some of it's straight ahead old timey country. So that's their first album, which was the Memorial Box. The second album is called Cornfield Cowboys. It's a rather nice cover. The coach in the barn there, and there's a picture of the band on the back. So basically, it's Tom Wright and Tim Wright, or Thomas and Timothy Wright, who started the band, and this has sort of far more. This is, I suppose, the most country rock of the set, really. But there's a lot of cover versions. You've got a Wanda Jackson song on here, and again you've got another version of Rainmaker, a studio version. And then the third album is called Third Phonograph Album. The original copy of this has gold printing of all the stuff, which looks rather spiffy, but the back looks very similar to the rest of it. You got a Stephen Stills song on here, Rock and Roll Woman. You got a Peter Rowan bluegrass track. They've got a Western trilogy of things like Tumbling Tumbleweeds, Riding Down the Canyon, which is Gene Autry, and Cool Water. So yeah, a fascinating set. They would eventually drop the Overland Stage Company and just become the Wright Brothers. And they had a hit in the 1980s, I think 1980, with the jingoistic, what was it called? Buy American, Made in the USA, which I'm sure certain people in the States would love today. Anyway, less said that about the better. Anyway, so a cracking set. Really pleased to have it. The box has seen better days, but yeah, a really interesting band. Reminds me of a lot of the sort of UK country bands that have to be diverse depending on what audience they're playing to. So, you know, country rock for a country rock audience, bluegrass for a bluegrass audience, old school country and western. Yeah, really great stuff from the Wright Overland Stage Company. So that's the box set. There you go. Have a listen to something from this. I'll choose something. I mean, it won't necessarily be you know what the band does, because they do all kinds of things, but I'll choose something.
Just rode in from Waco, been driving Longhorn steer. Ain't too many tougher things this old cowpuncher fears. Kansas City saloon, yeah, by my side. They're the most beautiful girl came before my
Okay, so I promised you a bonus, and here it is. Yeah, I'm afraid I don't have it to show you. And that's because this is an album that's never been released. The story behind this is a guy called Al Dawson, who was in a band in the 70s called Cotton, or maybe they were called something else. I'll come to that. He wrote a comment on one of my previous country rock videos and brought my attention to an album that he had recorded back in 1976 and which never got released, unfortunately. And I went and listened to it, and it's absolutely great. And why it wasn't released is, I mean, I don't really know. But he started as a duo with a guy called Jim Welton, and they kind of were in the folk scene in the late 60s. I think they got together in 1968. He furnished me with some information, so forgive me, Al, if I get anything wrong. But I'm trying to go by what you've said. So yeah, so they did a lot of stuff as a duo, doing the folk scenes around Chicago. But they always seemed to have a problem with billing themselves as anything other than just their names. They did do a gig with Tom Rush, who he dubbed them the Nocturnal Emissions. But that, I suppose, luckily, is not a name that stuck. Other members joined their band, and they went in a kind of a country rock direction. But they couldn't really work out what their name should be. So sometimes on a good day it would be Cotton. Other times it would be Plate River Crossing. I think it's, or Platte River Crossing. And so yeah, even now, Alice said he's not quite sure what the name of the band was, but he has put up the album online, and you can go listen to it, and I encourage you to do so because it's great. It's a really well produced record. They got Lloyd Green to come and play some pedal steel on it. Apparently it was him because he was about the only session player that would actually travel outside of Nashville to do a session. So he's on the album on a number of tunes. And I mean, if I'm to be honest, and I hope Al doesn't mind me saying, in 1976, it sounds slightly dated insofar as it sounds like a kind of far more like the Flying Burrito Brothers than it does the Eagles. So they've really not jumped on that Eagle bandwagon, and that for me is a real bonus. Anything that has that classic sound of the early 70s country rock is okay in my book, and it's a real shame that this never got released. They were in talks. They pitched it to RCA, and the A&R man liked it. He thought it was brilliant, but he said it needed a single. Apparently then the idea was you couldn't release an album without a single. And so they sent some songs along by a guy from Minnesota who they thought clearly wrote singles material. And they recorded a couple of this guy's tracks, but they never liked what came out of them. So they turned around and said, I don't think we want to do those, and RCA kind of lost interest. They were also in talks with John Denver's management because they liked what they heard, but I think they thought there was perhaps too many of that sort of country rock sound on their label at the time, so they passed on them as well. So unfortunately, it has gone unlistened to for nearly 50 years. I say unlistened to. It's now on YouTube, and I say go and listen to it. I'm going to put the link in the below or to the side or above or wherever it is, because it is. If you like country rock, it is really worth listening to. It is your favourite country rock record you haven't heard yet. So thank you, Al, for bringing it to my attention, and I hope I haven't done you a disservice doing this. So I'm going to finish up with a couple of clips from the record just to show the sort of diversity of sound. But yeah, so this is Cotton with their self-titled album, from 1976. So until I come back with another one of these videos, ta-ra for now.
It's often been you that I've gone over to when you were alone and crying. But this time it's me that's needing to see a way to stop my soul from dying. I've seen your frowns, your ups and your downs. Most times I've gotten you through, but I've just hit a low and I've nowhere to go. Well, it's come to where you can't get straight. You think that it might be too late. Love would only hurt you if it's found. Yeah, you think that love's a shake-up, all the breakups and the makeups, and you think that it would only bring you down. Oh, babe, traveled over many a mile, and I've come for only one reason, just to see your smile. I swear it will be better in a little while. Now you're thinking that you lost your sight, 'cause you can't find love in just one night, but it's not the way it happens anymore. Still you dream of kisses on just stars when you're drinking inexpensive bars, so you're so drunk you can't make it to the door. Oh babe, traveled over many a mile, and I've come for only one reason, just to see your smile.